So we just got the Cheetah wall mount for the 20 to 75 inch flat screen TVs, and we've got a nice Samsung flat screen TV here. It's 58 inches, so it definitely falls within that range, and we're getting ready to install it on our wall here. We have studs that are 16 on center. We're gonna go ahead and just open it up and start looking at the different pieces here. I was surprised with how small the box is. It's got kind of a level. It's neat that they include that, some instructions, this nice HDMI cable. We didn't need ours. We actually wired it through the wall prior to the installation so that we could keep the wire clutter down, which is nice. So we've kind of got a parts list here, as you'd expect, and then just some visual instructions. There are a couple ways to set this up. One is with the really, really wide back mount, and that's for larger TVs like we have, or the second option is just the narrower one. If you're going to do the narrower version, you don't need these extra parts. Kind of just looks like this. But if you are like us, it's going to be a little bit bigger. The first step is to kind of line these up. You can see here that there's this piece that it's got some nuts and bolts all set up to be fastened together, and then these kind of act as supports. So the tools I've got here is just a screwdriver with a Phillips head, combination wrench set, and this is an 8mm wrench. That's what's going to fit the little nuts here for this first step. You could use something like this, like a variable size wrench. It's just not going to be quite as easy. You could also use like a socket wrench, but there isn't a ton of room to get in there, so to have something that can come from the side like this is ideal. I've threaded these by hand so far. Cool, so feeling very sturdy at this point. So the next step is actually to figure out where on the wall to mount this in terms of height. We do have wood studs in the wall, so we could adjust this kind of left to right if we wanted to, and of course up and down. That's really key on where you want your TV. There are a bunch of guides and stuff online, but I think a lot of people tend to mount their televisions way too high, so they talk about kind of the comfortable viewing heights. You can check that out based on the size of your TV. So we're going to go in, and because we're on wood installation, we're going to use 3/16 inch bit, which I've already got in there. It looks pretty big, but then when you look at these bolts, they're fairly large as well. If you're doing cement mounting, they recommend a different size, so they talk about 3/8 inch or 10mm for concrete installation. So make sure you check that out and drill the right size holes based on your needs. If you're using just the smaller version of this, it's shorter, it's not as heavy duty because you have a smaller TV and you didn't make the double long rack like we just did. You can use these, looks like wall anchors that they include, just these plastic things that you might not necessarily have to go right into the studs. So before we actually screw that to the wall though, we're gonna take the TV out and kind of put these clamps on the back and just get some idea of how far down the bezel is from the mounting, and so we can actually figure out where we want to mount this. But before that happens, I did want to show you what this kind of looks like before it's hidden. You can see there's the little cheetah paw thing here. This is where you can adjust the angle, so you can determine like how angled the TV is once it's up. But then you go ahead and just hang that from here, and then there's this little spring-loaded thing. When you put it down, it connects. So see, now it locks. It can't really get it off, and then you pull this other little paw down like that, and it comes back off. So very cool piece of hardware. Let's do that one more time. There we go. So that's what it's going to be like. We're going to have two of these things connected just like that. TV is going to be on it, at some level. I'm going to have that hanging off the wall and hopefully positioned wonderfully. Initially I was feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of the hardware, but what I realized is that they're giving you several sizes of bolts for the back of your TV. So there's this kind of narrow one that's relatively small, and then one step up, and then these super big ones. And I already tested this with our TV. This is the correct size for us. So that goes in right down there. It threads in nicely, feels good. And again, that's just based on the TV size that you have. And then these sort of nylon washers they're extra. You don't have to install them, but one of the concerns, one of the benefits, I guess, of this mount is that it only keeps your TV like 1.5 inches off the wall. But for some people, when you're trying to run cables and stuff to the back of your TV, you might need a little bit extra space, and so those washers should help. And I've read that some people kind of tip the TV forward when they do that. Go down on space. Okay, so now that we've got it out, again, this is a 58-inch, we'll be able to mount these brackets in here, and wow, they just barely fit. You'll notice that it's kind of the largest distance permissible. It's got that kind of locking washer piece. So yeah, and again, we use those nylon washers so that there's a little bit of extra distance from the wall, because our outlets do protrude directly out, perpendicular, whereas some TVs, they come out the side. So we're concerned about, you know, whether our wires are going to have to be bent really hard or not, along with our coax. So about 12.5. So we know 12.5 plus 32, and that's where our holes will be. So that's what we're going to measure real quick up on the wall. We're going to hold this bracket along with the little bubble level and mark our holes, and then drill those out, and then we'll mount the bracket. Okay, so we just held our bracket up here. We did the 16 on center. We made little marks on the wood. Now I'm about to drill, but before I do that, I wanted to just see how deep I was going to go for these screws. And sometimes you can put a piece of tape there, but I'm just going to remember that 1/2 inch before it changes. So there's this board. What was this board called again that we got?
MDF.
MDF, and then
1/4 inch.
You coated it with what kind of paint first?
With latex paint.
Latex paint, and then you did this cool pattern so it kind of looks like wood, but we've got multiple layers. So there's the hard layer of MDF, then there's the drywall, and then we get the studs. And that's why it's nice that there are these really long screws, and then again, pre-drilling them so they aren't cracking or, you know, causing any damage internally. Okay, since these, they kind of have like bolt heads instead of, you know, patterns for using a screwdriver, I've got a 1/2 inch head on this socket wrench, and we're going to hold this up. We're going to screw in these first two and then make sure it's level before we drill and screw in the second two. Making progress. And I'll try not to over tighten this so that we have some room to adjust. Okay, we're just doing some shop backing here. We used our longer level just because we wanted to get a really precise measurement. The level they included was all right, but you know, again, you're connecting the two pieces here. So our longer one worked a little bit better. We drilled the 2 holes. We're getting ready to put those the rest of the way, and then we're going to be really close. Are you all set to mount it? Okay, go ahead and go back now. You can see it's pretty tight back there, and one of our cables is actually colliding with the rack a little bit. There is enough room, plenty of room for the HDMI. We did use the nylon spacers, and we did have it click. Pretty cool, you know, it's definitely, it feels solid. We got them both to click. It does space the TV out a little ways from the wall, and I suppose some of that has to do with the television set that you have. Ours had, you know, quite a bit of plastic kind of outdented right there, but about 1.5 inches is what they had said for the Cheetah display holder itself, and just awesome. Also, I noticed that these little cheetah paw things, they kind of dangle down here. You can pull down on that and it'll unlock it for taking it off the wall. So these could be kind of tucked up in there if we wanted to. And the final step that I wasn't able to show is that there are these pins, and I actually slip those in, one on this side and one on the other, and that keeps it from tilting forward. So you kind of get it angled the way you want, and then the pin locks it in. So very happy with this. Hope it helped you out. Pretty good product for 25 bucks. A lot of work getting it all set up right, but definitely worth it. Think this is going to be here for a long time. So good luck.